Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a game called Starbound. My name is Sabouts, and I'm joined by Marcus Aurelius.
Hello, everybody.
You ready to do this?
Yeah, we are. So our plan here, since Sabouts is relatively new to the... Well, he's not new to the game, actually. He's played it a bit back, but he's new to the new version of the game. So we're just going to go around this planet, which is a forest planet. We're going to cut down every tree we see, because I want to gather as much wood as possible for a base I'm considering building. And I'm going to give Sabouts all the loot. And that's it. While we're doing that, we're just going to talk about a lot of topics that hopefully you, the viewer, will find of interest.
It's going to be the greatest deforesting of all time.
Absolutely. So, Sabouts, do you want to go right or do you want to go left?
Oh, man, it's tricky. Let's go here to the left, or I guess our right. It would be our right.
True.
And see what...
viewers left.
Viewers left. Our character's right.
I see a tree already that I'm going to deforest.
All right, I'm down here right now seeing what these guys are. And assuming that they're evil.
Be careful. Ah, you're doing fine.
There we go.
Yeah, those dual-wielding swords are pretty good.
Yeah, I probably should have started right with those, actually. All right, let me see if I can get myself out of here now.
Now, if we get to any, like, really troublesome impediments, just let me... I could tear through dirt like a hot wind.
I know. I don't have the same technology you've got, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. Another tree. Oh, it looks like there's actually some logs right here. I'm assuming we can...
Well, that's a furniture item. It doesn't, like, break down to its constituent parts.
Oh, yeah.
But,
so
yeah.
I got a sitting log. Not as exciting.
But you can put it down somewhere and sit on it.
Well, then it is as exciting.
It's more exciting. But, Sabouts, one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about is just in general, because your channel's name is Sabouts, which means serious about strategy. So I wanted to ask you what your opinions are about the strategy games that have come out since the beginning of the year. What you like, what you don't like, what you feel about the industry in general.
Well, I mean, right now there's been a lot of really good strategy games. I think coming out more now than there was, maybe 5-6 years ago. And that's just my personal opinion on that. But we've seen a lot of great games, within the last few years. There's been Endless Legend. There's been a lot of the Endless games, actually. And then Paradox releasing Stellaris and Hearts of Iron 4, which I think are both fantastic games. I mean, I think this is the best time right now for strategy gaming, except for maybe the more popular opinion might be strategy gaming was really alive 8 years ago, 10 years ago. But I'm really enjoying it personally. I love strategy games in general. And strategy for me is more of I take strategy at more of a broad level. So I won't consider, where a lot of people will be like, oh, strategy gaming. So like, real-time strategy games or... grand strategy. I think a strategy is more in the scope of being, some roguelikes I would consider strategy games, or some survival games. Tycoon games I like to consider strategy games. So for me, there's different branches of that.
Sure. And you're obviously, by name, very serious about them.
I'm super serious about them.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I do not personally restrict my channel to just strategy games. I play games of all stripes, but I would say that my viewer base tends to like the strategy games more, and they tend to get a bit more views than when I go off on the deep end and do something weird. Yeah,
and that totally makes sense. I mean, it's a mixed bag. Funny enough, some of my best videos on my channel tend to be roguelike games, but I think that's just such a niche market there, and roguelike games do kind of go hand in hand, or some of them go hand in hand with strategy. I mean, take a look at like Dwarf Fortress, it's a fantastic game. I definitely consider it to be a strategy game, more so than a roguelike almost. I mean, some people argue that Dwarf Fortress isn't even a roguelike, so...
the best description I've ever heard of Dwarf Fortress, and the one I've adopted myself, is that it is a fantasy world simulator.
Huh. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. I never really looked at it that way.
Because outside of the direct gameplay itself, you've got this whole world operating in the background.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of my favorite parts about it. I mean, you take you jump in and take a look at the history of your world. You could generate a world of 500 years and check everything out and see what happened in the world without you even taking part in it.
That's great. And hey, just for you for gameplay, I'm grabbing the trees, but like these little guys here, you could grab them and they contain pixels, which is money. Ooh. And the vines are plant matter, which you could use to make bandages. These, of course, are food. So just go ahead and grab everything, because the only thing I'm looking at is the wood.
Yeah, it makes sense. I probably should get as much as I can.
And well, actually, these things too, you can get the food off of them, but if you hit them another time, they turn into a seed, which you could then plant at your base or whatever.
Yeah, nice. Well, this game's awesome. I mean, like I said, it's been probably, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 3 years, maybe even longer than that since I've played it.
Yeah, I mean, I've really developed kind of a fondness for these type of open world, like, I don't even know what you call them, block management games. Like,
that's a good name for it, block management.
Because, like, yeah, this games like this, I have not played Terraria, but I will at some point soon. And if you just look at Steam, there's a ton of new games coming out soon that follow the same idea.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a pretty popular, well, it's been popular, I think, for the last couple of years now. But like Terraria, for example, so funny enough, and this actually brings us on to another topic, but I own Terraria, but I've never actually played it.
Yes, that's the same. But I mean, I purchased it recently with the intention of playing it soon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I really want to play it because I went, my biggest indicator for whether or not I'm going to like a game, when I go to look at the reviews on Steam for a game, I actually look at the hours people have put into the game.
Huh.
Generally, if I see like a lot of hours being put into a game, then I know it's probably going to be a pretty good game, regardless of what the reviews say for the most part. Because important for me is like replayability.
Sure.
The games I like to play, I like to get games that I feel like I could play a lot. So, like when I looked at Terraria, people had it's like ridiculous, like 2,000, 3,000 hours in it. So it was pretty funny to watch and see.
Are you able to make that jump?
I don't think so, but I should be able to place stuff, right?
Well, yeah, I was going to help you with that.
Perfect. That's nice. Thank goodness you're here. I would have already fallen to my death.
So back on the topic of like games, I would say that yes, this is kind of a renaissance for strategy games, and I like how they're developing the genre in different ways. And what I mean by that, because I know that's very vague, is that like you take a game like Endless Space 2, which I'm playing right now on my channel. And if this were made 8 years ago, it would look the same, but it wouldn't, for example, have some of the little touches that old strategy games didn't have. Like each planet has different like special effects, I guess you could say, like that like anomalies that provide different bonuses or negatives or minuses. There's a ship customizer, which I think actually first was done with Galactic Civilizations by Stardock. But I mean, again, old strategy games like Master of Orion didn't have that. I'm pretty sure. Did it?
Which one?
The first one or the second one?
The second one, I don't believe it had something kind of like that. You could take a look at games that, if you're going to use that as an example, I think like Distant Worlds Universe has a fantastic ship customizing system. At least I think so. And then another really good one is, you think, Distant Worlds. You said Gale Civ. What was the more recent Master of Orion, Conquer the Stars.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at that because I already have Gal Civ 3. I already have Stellaris. I already have Endless Space 2. And there's just only so many space strategy games you could have at one moment.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there. I realized that as I started like playing space strategy games, I was like, wait a second, there's a lot of space strategy games.
And I played a little bit of Distant Worlds on the channel, not as a series of my own, but as kind of a guest star on one of Daz's series.
Yeah, I remember that one, actually.
It's just, I don't know, I felt it was just too... I mean, if I spent the time to really learn it, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more, but I didn't stick with it just because it felt like it was just too complicated.
I mean, there's a lot there, and unfortunately, some of the great mechanics are hidden in obscurity. So, it's like the kind of game where you have to watch other people play, and you have to look up online to actually learn how to play. You can't really you could jump into it, but it's a rough ride for the first 25 hours or so. Although that's how I feel like Dominion's 4 is too. At least for me, that's how it was.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Dominion's 4 is very easy to play. It is not easy to play well.
Yes.
Like, anybody can recruit troops and lead an army, and against the AI, I think you could do pretty well without understanding things like communions or, some of the higher level, like, gameplay elements.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the biggest thing I struggled with was really using mages and the spell system to my advantage.
Sure.
Because I have a tendency to, any game I play, I have a tendency to choose, like raw iron and steel swords and spears and, a more traditional army over magic systems. So that's just how I've kind of always played any of the games I play.
So I'm just going to run past these guys because they drop a special kind of wood that I'm not interested in. I'm just looking for actual wood. This is kind of a weird eyeball-ish biome.
What do you get from these? You actually get eyeballs? Pile of eyes. All
yes,
right.
And there's also it's some kind of strange wood. It might be called like alien wood. I don't know. It should say when you
flesh strand.
Yeah. So, and you might want if you want it yourself, you can grab some. There's some tungsten here too.
Ooh.
But now that we're doing this, I'm trying to think of strategy games that have been released this year. Now, I have not played Civilization 6. I tend to not buy games at full price if I can avoid it.
Oh, you and me both. I also haven't played Civilization 6 for the same exact reason. I really don't. When it comes out at $60, it's just I got burned really. So I got burned really bad on Beyond Earth. I was one of the people who pre-ordered it and was extremely disappointed at what it brought to the table. So after that, it's actually that game in particular is the reason why I don't trust buying games right when they come out anymore, and I don't like to pre-order anything.
I may pick up Beyond Earth at some point. The reason I haven't so far, and it's not the game's fault, but it's like I received some comments when I was playing a similar game called Pandora.
Oh, I love that game.
And people were like, this game just copies Beyond Earth. And I'm like, this game came out like a year before Beyond Earth.
I was just gonna say.
And it's just, I was like, I was just kind of annoyed. I'm like, here's a franchise game that has tons of marketing and it's basically intruding upon this little indie game, and people are so like brainwashed. They actually think that the indie game is copying the franchise game.
Yeah, if they wanted to, they could have maybe gotten away by saying this game copies Sid Meier Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, and that's true. But I think with enough time between them, that's okay.
Exactly. Well, and we were due for a game like Alpha Centauri anyways, and I believe we still are due for a good game like that.
There's something cool in that box that you might want here. Oh, yeah. It's a thing to improve. It's a gun. It's a thing to improve your manipulator.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. I'll take that.
Let's see. Right now, out of the space games, I don't want to pick a favorite right now between Stellaris and Endless Space 2 because they're both great in different ways. Endless Space 2 is much more artistic of a game. Like, it's just, you're like playing a work of art. Whereas Stellaris, I will say, has better systems in some areas. In some, diplomacy is better, definitely, in Stellaris.
Yes, absolutely.
And, I don't know, combat, I don't think either of them are particularly good at combat, but at least Stellaris' combat is kind of integrated into the engine, whereas Endless Space's combat is I think most players stop watching it after a while.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. And a lot of us agreed. I did a 4X podcast for a while. Oh, boy. And a lot of us agreed that the portion of Endless Space with the combat screen and everything that you can watch, it's kind of completely useless. And I mean, it's pretty. But after a while, I mean, why would you want to watch it? It kind of... it's kind of a waste of time after a while. You don't really get anything from watching it. It's not like Endless Space, the first one, where if you watch, you could actually pick cards that would somewhat decide the outcome of the battle.
There you go.
I know I can't jump over anything right now.
Yeah, I like the idea behind it, and I read that they got a cinematographer, and I will say that they look a lot better, the battles, than they used to.
Oh yeah.
But I just feel like throw on I'd tell the developer, I guess, throw on the Star Wars prequels. Like they weren't very good movies, but look at the space combat. And if you want to make cinematic space combat that the player can't interact with, make it look like that. Like have ships flying underneath each other and make it really cinematic and interesting.
Exactly. So not just ships slowly approaching each other and firing back and forth.
And then then a shot of the ship getting hit with a weapon, and then a shot of the ship shooting a weapon, and then cut to the ship getting hit by that weapon.
Back and forth.
Look at how Star Wars does it, where you see the whole fleet, and then you zoom in, you see the ships. I don't know, just a little bit. Even if it has nothing to do with actual gameplay, even if it's just visual, I think it would be a little bit more. But it's a hard concept, and they're married to it at this point. To kind of visually show combat that you can't interact with, there's only so many ways you could do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that Stellaris does it better in the terms of, for me, Stellaris does it better because I don't mind Stellaris' combat system. I know a lot of people like when they can be a little bit more hands-on with combat, but Stellaris is simple. It's the same reason I like, games like Hearts of Iron or Europa Universalis 4. It's a simple combat system.
I've never played Hearts of Iron, but I am familiar with Europa Universalis. But I would say it's like a lack of a combat system more than anything.
Yeah, it's a little bit of for Stellaris for when it first came out, and I think it's gotten better, but it was a lot of rock, paper, scissors.
And I think it's hard to get away from that, though, because...
Well, of course, yeah.
Yeah, how else do you do it? I'm trying to think in my mind right now how I would do a combat system that wasn't rock, paper, scissors. Where would the strategy be involved? That's the whole point of strategy.
That's a good point. And I'm trying to think of a game that actually does it well. It's tough to think of one because a lot of games really do a rock, paper, shotgun kind of system. A game that would do it well, probably... Dominions 4 does it kind of well.
Really? Because that's what I hear from most people is their big complaint about Dominions is the combat.
Really? I think that, there's so many...
I'll help.
Maybe it's because I'm still somewhat, I don't want to say, I'm not very good at the game. I would be beginner level or maybe a little over that, but I'm not 100% familiar with everything, so it seems like there's a lot of variables that go into effect in combat. There's a lot that can happen, especially spells adding a different effect.
Yeah. Oh, wow, 2 chests right next to each other. That's quite a find. Here's the thing that bugs me about Dominions 4 combat is that it's so limited and the game doesn't take that into consideration when it factors in the results. And let me give you a good example of that. So you're allowed to give your commanders 5 orders, but the game might unilaterally decide that it doesn't like your orders, and it might have your commanders do something else. And for a big epic battle that lasts for a long time, 5 orders isn't enough. And it seems like once they've done the 5 things you want them to do, the next few things they do are completely asinine.
Yeah.
You can tell them to cast 5 specific spells that are really going to help you, but then they're going to start casting banishment when they should be doing something a lot more useful. I don't know how to say it. And I understand the limitation. You can't be giving your guys 50 orders to understand all eventualities. But I don't know. Maybe if combat was in rounds, where you can give 5 orders and then you see the first 5 rounds of combat and then it pauses and it lets you give another 5 orders. Or if it's going to force you to just watch combat, then it should be a bit more intelligent in what it does.
Yeah, that's a good point. You played Conquest of Elysium 4?
No,
right?
I have not.
Oh, for some reason I thought you had.
No, sir.
Well, that game's is very similar to how Dominions 4 set up combat-wise. I feel like you do get a little bit more. Well, I guess. Well, how do I put it? You get to actually like cast a lot of the spells, and I think you get a little bit more. It's a lot more one-on-one, you know, because with Dominions 4 you're playing a nation, and Conquest of Elysium 4 you're playing more of like a character.
I get you, but I heard that combat was more tactical though. Like you did it like on a turn-based. Or is that not true? Is it still you set up your armies and you just watch and see what
clash,
happens?
Yeah, and you just watch.
Okay. Actually, I mean, that's the first time I thought of it, but that's actually my new idea for Dominions is to have combat in rounds where you still only have 5 orders. Oh, good shot. But you, but after those 5 orders are done, then the game pauses and you get to choose another 5 orders.
That's actually a really cool idea. You know, my dream actually has been is I've always thought it'd be cool to make a really good, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Warhammer 40K universe.
I am.
I thought that the Warhammer 40K universe would just make an amazing 4X game.
Aren't there? Like, there's one that just came out, where you could be the Space Marines or the Imperial Guard. Daz played it on his channel.
I'm not sure. Is it actually like a 4X game?
Oh no, you're right. It's not 4X. It's like a tactical strategy game. It's like a turn-based. I'm sorry, I got 4X confused with turn-based.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah. That would be interesting. Where like this is where we started. So actually now's a good time to actually pause the recording, go to another planet, and continue in the next episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm Marcus Aurelius. I'm here with Sabouts, and thank you, Sabouts, for finding the time to collab with me. And next episode, we're going to deforest a whole nother planet.
Oh, fantastic.
While we continue to talk about the state of strategy gaming and maybe some other topics as well. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Sabouts, do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.